And we're live. Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel. Thanks for joining us. We will take a moment and wait for everyone to join in the discussion for today's topic. So just bear with me as we allow the audience to gather, since YouTube no longer allows us to do the proper notifications when preparing for such a live stream. So we will get going here momentarily, have some interesting information to go over, take a look at, and discuss tonight. So as you join in, there we go. Make sure we are sending the video out to the proper avenues so all of you can see what we're going to be discussing today. All right, looks like we have Physics Hypernova, Carlos Danger, The New Civil Defense, Abadel Lawrence, Bill Spencer, Christopher. Thanks for joining in. If you could, give me a quick sound check before we get started. Quick reminder, at the conclusion of the video, you'll find a link down below to Mrs. Maltby's channel. She put a new video up today. You'll see her in her most dangerous gunfighter stances with her wheel gun and lever gun out in the woods. So check out Mrs. Maltby's channel at the conclusion of tonight's live. She is with us here in the background, hovering, doing her own things. But tonight's discussion, for those of you tuning in, we're going to talk about market caps. This is something I think it's overlooked oftentimes, and I'll do my best here on the extemporaneous ramblings of a madman here on the Junius Maltby bunker to give you my input, what I kind of look at and what I think about when I think of the market caps. How much money's floating out there? How big are some of these various markets? And the Visual Capitalist website often puts it together quite well. I've perused their site for years. I've used it for everything from producing certain gold videos, certain silver videos, certain videos reflecting how much debt's out there, showing you visually the pallets of cash, how much cash is destroyed, lost, the way the central banks are essentially debasing, devaluing currency every single day. And they put it in a very good visual way, because oftentimes you can hear numbers, you can see the digits, you can see the commas, and in order to understand how much wealth there is in particular markets, it's nice to have a visual representation of that. And what we're going to do is combine this market cap discussion with the direction the world economy has been headed in for quite some time, ever since the channel was born, and all of the various times we've discussed everything from debt to inflation to the currencies to the history of monetary policy, precious metals, cryptocurrencies, you name it. And as you can see, there's things shaking and shifting right now. I got a couple of texts today from a close friend discussing the direction of some of these things. New records are being broken. If you've seen that an incredible amount of wealth is moving, the velocity of money is happening. There is money moving around the world in every currency, and it's going into particular places. Now, certain people are going to make very good, sound decisions and good bets based on what they think is coming. Others might not be so lucky. And I think we are, in fact, entering into, or in the midst of, what you could determine as a great reset. You've heard that term, a paradigm shift, uncharted waters, a sea change, as Professor Antal Fekete, the Hungarian economist, puts it. A sea change, a part of the ocean, the economic ocean or sea, that no ship has yet sailed. And he came out with that years ago. And we've been sailing through those uncharted waters for some time now. And it's just a matter of time before we discover perhaps the edge of the earth when it comes to these things, and the ships go tumbling off. When we look at market cap, we're going to look at this site here, and I'm just going to show you a couple other articles. Before we really get into the market cap conversation, we'll let the viewership, the audience, grow a little bit. So we'll take a look at some market caps, some silver predictions, and some gold prices. As you all know, back in August, I covered the discussions of silver in the future, what some banks were predicting. And it was surprising, this one here, when Bank of America made some $50 silver calls. And what's interesting is this came out in August, right? August 5th. And I believe we went over this article back then, so I'm not going to dive into the whole thing now. This was before a lot of the news broke that the banks were having problems. The overnight lending, the liquidity crunch that took place, and the repo markets, and there were some issues, as you know. There was some quaking, some tremors in the world of global finance. And Bank of America predicted $50 silver back then. Now this is pre-COVID, this is pre-quantitative easing infinity, all the stimulus, the Fed declaring that they would accept higher inflation rates, and just the multiple trillions of dollars that were dumped into the world economy globally in an effort to stave off a major contraction or recession. So again, keep that in mind. Silver was already predicted at 50 by some major financial institutions back then. Also, we saw this $50 price silver prediction again. This was discussed back in November 12th. This is just a reminder of that sentiment has not gone anywhere. There's still discussions on $50 silver. I've even seen predictions for, again, $100 silver. This was out October 26th. Of course, David Morgan's oftentimes pretty bullish with silver, but this article and the video that was accompanying it are him discussing $100 silver prices. So again, keep that in mind as we discuss market cap today and look at those things. I wanted to also show you this one. This is again another Kitco article. This is from today, November 13th. It has been decided silver is going much higher. Again, very, very bullish predictions on silver. And I'm going to tell you, this is not just silver. Silver might be the little canary in the mine with this, but I believe that it's an indicator that all of these markets we're going to discuss tonight, gold, silver, and crypto, are essentially becoming extremely bullish, and a lot of wealth is getting either prepared to flow into these markets, or it's already in the process of doing so. It's happening. And when you look at the recent election that took place, the chaos, the uncertainty, we're not going to get into that. Just looking at the possible economic policies that are going to come out of this and be adopted, what's going to happen? Again, modern monetary theory, it is becoming mainstreamed. It's being accepted in all of the United States government, it seems. It's going to be looked at very favorably. I do have concerns about what kind of relationship is going to take place between the Fed and the Treasury, what the current or the incoming administration is likely going to do when it comes to handling monetary policy and spending, as well as stimulus programs and how they view and treat the dollar. So keep that in mind as well as we look at all of this. Again, this is just to allow everyone to gather in here, and hopefully we're still broadcasting. Yes, looks like we are. It looked like there was for a moment there, the streaming software showed me that we have an error taking place. I'm just making sure we're not losing you guys. So continue to give me sound checks. If it gets disrupted or breaks up, let me know. Now, what we're going to do is first I'm going to start off quickly because I think it's important to do so. We'll take a current look because this is a conversation I had with a friend last night on the market cap of all crypto. We were just having a discussion on it, where things might be headed, because again, with the move towards digitalizing world currencies, a lot of these projects, these cryptos, are, it seems, being looked at more favorably by major banks, financial institutions. There's laws. Every day things are changing and shifting here. It's the Wild West still. It's brand new. Things are happening. But there has been a major influx in capital into these markets. As many of you have seen, I'm sure you are aware, because some of you have admitted and disclosed that you are, in fact, invested and somewhat exposed in these markets, in cryptocurrencies. And I have no problem with that there. If that's something you're doing, that's great. Just again, keep your eye on the volatility. Make sure you can move it. If you are moving it into metals, skimming those profits, like I know some of you have disclosed, good for you. Keep at it. The more metal you can stack based on playing this game, the better. But it's incredible to me the valuations we're starting to see, especially when you look at Bitcoin at 16,000 now. It's pretty historic. I mean, we're at 3 or 4 year highs for Bitcoin. Now, the reason I mention that is because myself included and others that I discuss these things and have these conversations with when we're just having a friendly dialogue and a discourse about all of this, it's difficult to see the future. None of us have 2020 vision, what's going to take place down the road. Hindsight seems to be 2020, but the foresight or predictions, it's impossible these days. We never know what's going to take place exactly, what kind of policies are going to happen, and a lot of unpredictability there. But when you look at March, when we looked at those, yes, ma'am,
Sir Junius,
yeah,
there's reverb reports.
Reverb. I don't know why that happens. Let me try this. Hold on. I've got an idea. I've done this before. And if the reverb stops, let me know. All right. That might fix it. If not,
you were talking about March.
Okay. In March, the Bitcoin plummeted. Many of you know. Everything did. The markets fell. Gold, silver fell. I had friends that truly believed that that was it. That was the nail in the coffin. Crypto was dead. Bitcoin was dead. Bitcoin was going to zero. It was down around 3,000 and such change, and now it's sitting at $16,213.56. In the last 7 days, it's up about 3%. We've also seen its market cap. Now, again, this is the main topic tonight is market cap. The total market cap, all of the money that's in Bitcoin is around $300 billion. $300 billion. Not a lot of money. It sounds like a lot. Again, it's not. I mean, there's a couple of humans, I think, on the planet that are worth that. But here's what's really interesting. You look, there's now like 7,671 cryptocurrencies. That's incredible. I mean, 90% of those are probably going to go extinct one day. But there's 7,000 of these projects here in 32,900 markets for a total market cap. Now, this is all of them, $465 billion. So it's not even half a trillion. $465 billion in total market cap for all 7,000 coins. Now, of course, Bitcoin makes up about 64% of that total market cap. The 24-hour volume, now this is the volume of all of these cryptos, is about 100. If you can see where I'm pointing up here on the top of the screen, let me see if I can get it to you there. Hopefully you can see where I'm pointing here. It's 113 billion. All right, that's the 24-hour volume. Now, there's been a lot of movement lately. You can see a lot of green here. A lot of the top 10 coins have essentially risen dramatically. You've got some major percentages here in 24-hour and 7-day changes. There's been a lot of trading volume taking place. The market caps for all of these quite significant, again, but only in the billions. Nothing too dramatic. Again, none of these are in the trillions. We're not seeing multi-trillion-dollar market caps for crypto, even though we hear guys like Robert Kiyosaki, Max Kaiser, and others discussing how this is definitely one of the players. Crypto's one of the players here where people are looking at to escape inflation and protecting some of their wealth, along with precious metals. I just saw an article, and it's going to skip my mind, but I think it was this morning or last night, on it was a nation somewhere. Gosh, I don't know if it was Turkey or Iran. It was over there. We'll just say in the Mideast, and they were actually exploring cryptos to protect themselves from what's coming in this global economic hurricane that they recognize. They do recognize it, just like you do. just like others. So keep that in mind. You've got these very bullish predictions that are circulating about silver. We've already I don't need to reiterate or review the very bullish predictions for gold. I think all of you are quite aware of that. Gold did do a pretty good little jump today, kissed up at the 1900 range again. I don't know if that was an all-time high, if the day high, I mean. I don't know if the 24-hour high was at 19 or what, but it's sitting around 1889, 1890 now. Silver also took a pretty good little jump today to 24.68 currently. So we're looking at that, looking at some changes there. We've pointed out the recent charts on both metals in recent videos. But again, bullish trends on both metals. When you look at the backdrop of what's taking place and what's coming, it's setting up for, I would consider to be a significant run. Because I think a lot of wealth is essentially loaded up in the launch position and ready to fly into all three of these markets. Now, let's take a quick look over at the stocks today. They went up. The Dow went up, I think 400 about 399 today. S&P was up 48. Nasdaq up 119. All of them up at about a 1.5 percentage-wise, 1%, 1.36%. S&P rose 500, more than 1% to close, to cap off a strong week. So again, a lot of money flowing there as people are, again, they're getting free money. You know, the Fed's printing it off for nothing, giving it out, just pumping it into the economy. So now let's go to the main event of the market cap discussion. Again, this is a live. I won't be able to see your questions as they're coming in because I'll get too distracted.
It's mostly people with Bitcoin saying that there's stories of people who invested in Bitcoin, and then they lost their passwords and things. And
and that's going to be considered a software problem, for lack of a better term. And when I say software, I mean in the brain, the head. Some people have a hard time. If you do get involved in crypto, we could talk about that. It is very important to be quite diligent. Now, there are people that have had their passwords, their keychains, and no problems with their process of logging in and keeping track of their coins or securing things in hard offline wallets and so on, or various exchanges without losing it. Whether it's having very reputable exchanges like Bitstamp or Coinbase or Bittrex, places that keep 98 or 99% of their coins offline in cold storage where they can't be hacked, and then keeping track of, like I have all of my stuff, my keys, my chains, all those 12-word specialized phrases that are literally impossible to hack. All of that information, as well as my scannable QR codes, are in one envelope, in a fireproof envelope, in a fireproof safe location. So I have access to all those, and I'm pretty confident that I won't lose them.
But is it wife-proof?
It's wife-proof. Yeah, I don't think you. It would be. It's literally hieroglyphics to you.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
but the paper shredder isn't hieroglyphics.
The problem is, if I died, you'd have a very different. You'd have to contact Paladin Stacker, and he'd have to help you. You'd have to give him the envelope, and he would help you obtain the cryptos.
Oh, is he your Bitcoin buddy system?
He's my Bitcoin buddy system.
You guys traded little passcodes like in
Paladin would help. He'd help you out. I promise.
Oh, okay.
But again, I don't know how long you'd live if I wasn't there to make you breakfast, ma'am.
Oh.
You'd probably starve to death. They'd find you and the kitties. I understand the concern there, and during the early days, during the incipient stage of crypto, I myself, if any of you recall, I myself lost the keychains to a very small fraction of a Bitcoin once, and I believe that one's gone. It was negligible amount. I mean, it might be more nowadays, but it was during back like 2011 or 12, and it's gone. Big deal. Cost of doing business, I guess. But I think today, if you're diligent and you do it right, you print the stuff off, you follow the instructions properly, and it is getting easier. It's getting easier all the time, believe me, because I'm not that good at this. I was not that good at handling that stuff, but I've learned as I went, and I think it is being more streamlined and user-friendly as time goes on. The thing is, the early investors, the early adopters, the people that struggled through the process. I know we're getting sidetracked here. Those ones, it paid off for them because it was that hard and it was so few people doing it. And that's one of the reasons why I would actually argue, much like with gold and silver, that it's not that much of a bubble because, again, what I'll point to is market cap. And that's today's discussion. I want to compare the world's money and markets in 2020. Now, this is a little dated. This is May. Okay, so this is, COVID was going on, but the numbers have probably changed dramatically when it comes to looking at what this is going to show us as how much fiat's out there. But this is going to give you a rough idea, a ballpark of how much potential there is for money, cash, fiat, the currencies of the world, to flow into the three areas that we're looking at and the three areas I want to discuss. Now, and that's gold, silver, and cryptos, because I do believe all three are finding a role and a place in what's taking place currently, and that is escape pods and hatches and places people are going to shield themselves, to protect themselves, and to hide their wealth from that overreaching arm of the state in the fact, or in the process of the inflation tax, the hidden inflation tax, the devaluation, the debasement of currencies. Now, let's take a look at it. This is a great piece. I want you to we'll give the guy credit here, Jeff Desjardins, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. This is again from the Visual Capitalist. Give him all the credit. How this visualization works. This is important. This little black square and all the squares you see when we go forward are worth $100 billion. So I want you to look at that right now. This is $100 billion, this square. Okay? So silver. That's where we're going to start, just like we opened the video with. We started with silver. So I know this is the most boring channel on YouTube, and some of you might go to sleep listening to this, but this is interesting and it's fun. So join me here. Silver. The value of all above ground silver stocks is $43.9 billion. Nothing. That's nothing. Really, think about it. Like Jeff Bezos could probably almost buy all of the silver on the planet. Think about that. If Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, who's that evil bastard that's really big into vaccines?
Bill Gates?
Bill Gates. Yeah, my brain doesn't like to remember his name.
He's one of my other favorite people.
The super nerd.
Next to Kabbalah Harris.
The nerd. So if you had like the top 10 or 20 guys on the planet decide to all take extreme heavy positions in silver, it's gone. These guys could buy all the above ground silver as fast as I just snap my fingers tomorrow. Take possession, take physical delivery, and done. They wouldn't have yours though. So think of that for a moment. But they could get all the other stuff that's out there. The stuff that's not in stacker vaults, they could easily take off the market. Lock it up and be done. But I just want you to remember, now this is at 1720. So it's a little bit, it's more than that now. Let's call it 50 billion. Either way, it's a very small square. Remember this square. It's smaller than the 100 billion square here. That's all the above ground silver stocks. So keep this in mind as we go forward. I need you to really keep this visualization of this little square of all this. That's all the silver. That's all of it. That tiny little square. Now here's cryptocurrency. Now it's come up again. We just looked at it. It's about 400 billion or so now, right? This is the total value of all cryptocurrency. Back at this date was 244 billion. It's almost doubled since then. A lot of money has come into it. And Bitcoin accounts for, we just saw 64% of it. Here you can see Bitcoin right here. And here's the other 5,000 coins making up that much. But again, it's about twice that little square there. It's one and then that one. So these two green ones that you see, that's all the Bitcoin, those two. And then all the other coins is that much. Here's military spending. This is annual military spending for the United States, China, and then other nations here. So this is global military spending. This is the year 2020 so far. This is up through May. Okay, this is the U.S. budget deficit. according to the Congressional Budget Office, rescue spending for COVID-19, and again, it's grown since this time. This is just May. It'll nearly quadruple the 2020 U.S. budget deficit to a record $3.8 trillion, or 18.7% of U.S. economic output. That's the U.S. budget deficit just for this year. Okay? Now remember, we'll go back up here. That's all the silver that exists. They just spent an exorbitant amount of all that wealth. And then there's just that tiny little square is all the silver. I'm not going to do all the math. I'll leave that to you guys. You can do the little calculations and figure out how much silver alone, if the U.S. budget deficit was just spent in silver, how much that is. Quite a bit. Coins and banknotes. This is tangible currency. This is the not what's in the computers and in the accounts. This is actually what's like printed on paper and what's in, the shrapnel, the garbage cuproclad nickel coinage. Look at it. Tangible currency, what many people around the world think of as money, is about $6.6 trillion. That's how much is floating out there. So 6,600 billions. There's the U.S. That's all the physical currency that's floating around out there. And then there's the euro. You got China and Japan. We're getting bigger. As you notice, we're starting to get a little bit bigger now. We're talking about trillions now. Remember, there's only with this chart here, there's only 43 billion in silver out there, 44 billion. The Fed's balance sheet. This is incredible. Actually incredible. This one here. This was added since 2008. All of that. This area in the pink. Again, each of these squares represents 100 billion. This was added just since January of this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 3 is 21. 2,100 billions. The Fed's balance sheet now sits at over $7 trillion. Over 40% of this total has been added in 2020 alone. I'm going to let that sit for a second with you. 40% of the Fed's balance sheet of $7 trillion as of May 26th, the year 2020, 40% of it was added just this year. Now here's the world's billionaires. We just talked about these guys a little bit earlier. Zuckerberg, Gates, Bezos, this pinhead Arnault, and then Ellison. These are their value. Remember I told you, Jeff Bezos, the guy could buy all of the silver on the planet and still have like 60 or 70 billion dollars left over. Think of that for a moment. Just pause. You're talking about like beyond the wealth of Crassus of Rome. Bill Gates, same thing. He could buy essentially all of the silver on the planet and still have over half of his wealth. All of these guys capable of buying all of the above ground stored silver on the planet. The world's 2,095 billionaires are worth $8 trillion. Below are the 5 richest, which collectively hold less than 5% of the billionaire assets. This is the wealth of the billionaires here, right here. Each one of these squares, again, is worth $100 billion. Now, here is the above ground gold. This is pretty good. Then there's some below ground reserves, which isn't very much. The below ground doesn't look like there's very much left, if that's accurate. Now, the world's total above ground gold reserves are estimated at 197,576 tons. This is by the World Gold Council. Now, using $17.15 an ounce, we're only 200 off of that. The world's gold is estimated at around 10.9 trillion, so it's come up a lot since I last looked at this metric back when I was starting this channel. The above-ground world gold supply was worth around 5 to 6 trillion, so it's about doubled since then, which makes sense when you look at the price of gold has essentially over doubled since the birth of this channel. Now you've got jewelry here, private investment, official holdings, and other. There's jewelry right there. Now, jewelry is kind of a misnomer because a lot of cultures, specifically in like India and even Saudi Arabia and a lot of the Middle Eastern nations, some of their primary investment into gold is in the form of jewelry. So it's, you can buy like necklaces, bracelets, and pieces of jewelry that are 24 karat gold of specific weights. And it's a way they're both investing but holding gold. However, it's in the form of jewelry, but it's still gold.
So if you actually read up on that, I saw some articles regarding India because a lot of their celebrations and holidays have been canceled due to COVID. Mm-hmm. And it really broke their jewelry market there.
Because they're unable to celebrate in their wedding season and such, which is coming up, I believe.
It's more than... yes, that is, but it's more than that. I mean... There's tons of articles discussing that, though, and potentially that 2021, because the new wave, remember the second wave they were talking about?
Yeah.
It's here, so.
It's going to affect it again, and there's going to be a rebound. It's going to, eventually, the people in India and in these Middle Eastern countries, their life will, in fact, return to normal at some point, and they will go about their regular business again and begin to accumulate metals at, of course, newer prices, different prices. The Indian wedding season has always been a phenomenal drive for gold prices because I know we've showed it here on the channel before, but when an Indian bride presents herself and gets married, there's an enormous amount, oftentimes, depending, of course, the caste and how wealthy the family is. She's often presented with a lot of gold. I forget the measurement, the average weight, but it was in the pounds, how much gold the bride comes out with to bring to the wedding.
Where was all my gold on our wedding day?
You had a little gold ring. That would have been up to your dad and such. I would have given him a couple of camels, a couple of mules, some goats, and then he would have, or whatever, and then you would have, come to me and you'd have had a bunch of gold.
It's okay. I have a beautiful.
You have a beautiful little gold ring. It's worth millions. It's priceless.
It's priceless. I was just going to say.
It's a beautiful, priceless ring. Made for a princess. So again, that's all the world's gold. It would be a little bit more difficult for these guys up here, these billionaires, to take their positions like we talked about. They could buy all the silver, but they couldn't buy all of the gold. It would be harder for them. But they could put a dent in it. They could definitely drive the price and do some changes there. But we're going to move on. This is, again, we're talking about market cap here. And why I believe gold, silver, and crypto, their market caps are infant. They're minute. It's essentially, it's like peering into the ocean and just dipping a teacup into it as far as the market cap of those big three that we just mentioned, gold, silver, and crypto, compared to the market cap of all of these other sectors and areas that we're talking about and looking at right now. So the potential for wealth to flow into them, which we do believe is going to happen and is already under the process of happening, is going to cause those three areas to see dramatic shifts and changes in price. And I would say a dramatic increase in demand with a very small amount of supply available. So you know how that works with economics. It's going to change the price. The Fortune 500 companies, here they are, the big five, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, and Facebook. You're looking at the other 495 over here, but these big five represent 24%. And again, each square, I'll remind you, 100 billion. So Microsoft is 1.3 trillion, Apple 1.3 trillion, Amazon 1.1 trillion. And you've got Alphabet, 938 billion, just under a trillion there. Facebook, 598 billion. So again, they talk about thousands of billions here. So Microsoft's 1,384 billion. Now, if silver is only 44 billion, you do the math. I mean, it's just half of one of these little squares is all of the silver in the world. And that this is the market cap here. Look at this, of all these Fortune 500s. Now let's go to the stock markets. This is the one I use for a friend of mine I have a friend, he's a good guy. We talk gold, we talk crypto, he's in both. And he oftentimes is somewhat skeptical on the potential for cryptos to grow. And he's kind of where I was back in like 09, 10, and 11. And he has some exposure, but he just doesn't see them moving like others do. He's quite skeptical, and I'd say he's conservative in that area. But what I often use with him is I say, look at the markets. Look at how much money sits in the various exchanges. And you look here, it's 89.5 trillion. 89, almost 90 trillion. And since the markets have blown up, we've seen them grow since May. I mean, I wouldn't doubt if they're sitting at around 100 trillion today. And remember, all of the crypto market, that's what I want to talk about with him, is, and that's what I mentioned to him. I said, look at how the market cap of just various cryptos and how small they are. They start taking a piece of this international movement of money, and people start hiding wealth there to secure it on the blockchains. You could see it significant. This is why I believe some people are so hyper bullish when it comes to looking at that sector, is because of this. You're looking at $100 trillion, my friend, 10,000 billions or whatever it is, or that's 100,000 billions, right? 100 trillion? Yeah, 100,000 billions. So it's an incredible amount of money. It's an incredible amount of wealth getting ready that could be unleashed and flow into those three areas: gold, silver, and crypto. Again, you got the New York Stock Exchange at 31.5% of it, the NASDAQ's at 14.5% of it, and then you've got all of these others down here: Japan, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Euronext, Shenzhen, London, Saudi, and all the others down here. So just a large amount of market cap sitting in the stock markets. Now this is the money supply. The total value of the world's easily accessible money is around $35.2 trillion. This includes the world's coins, banknotes, and checking deposits. This is including the other stuff above that we mentioned. Now, actually, they show it for you here in green. The physical, all of the physical notes and coins in the planet are right here. This is it. This is that one we showed earlier on actual physical money that's out there on the planet. The other 93% of all the money that's out there is non-physical, which gives you an idea what kind of bank run there could be. If people wanted their cash, they wanted to move it. If people started making withdrawals and demands to take their cash, I mean, this makes sense why there was a coin shortage here in the States with COVID. But again, 93% of the currency is non-physical. It just exists on the other side of a screen or on a ledger someplace. Now, broad money, this is the total value of the world's money, is 95.7 trillion. This includes banknotes, coins, money market accounts, as well as savings, checking, and time deposits. So 95.7 trillion. The narrow money is 35.2 trillion. You add these two up, you're looking at what, 130 trillion, something like that, $131 trillion. That's a lot. A lot of potential, a lot of kinetic energy there, ready to go. A lot of kinetic wealth, I guess. Now that's the money. All right, now we're going to start getting into the debt now, guys. This is where it starts to really get shocking. Here's global debt, May 26, 2020. This is the total amount of debt, including that accumulated by governments, corporations, and households. Together, it adds up to $253 trillion, which is 322% of global GDP. I'm going to say that again, 322% of global GDP. That alone tells you there is no going back. They're not paying off the global debt. I mean, heck with America's debt. I mean, we're looking right now at the global debt. We're looking at an existential debt crisis for the planet. It's shocking. It's staggering. This is household debt, government debt. Again, every square is $100 billion. Non-financial corporates, and then financial sector. Okay, that's the big pie there. Governments represent about 27.4% of the debt. Financial sector is 18.8%. Non-financial corporations, 29.5%. Households, 24.3%. All of it as of May, was about $253 trillion. Again, 322% of global GDP. This is something that's not going to change. It's only getting worse. All of the charts, all of the metrics, everything you use to measure this shows that it can only increase. It's only getting worse, and it will only continue to do so. And the only thing they're going to do is continue to print money to try to kind of placate it or somehow put a Band-Aid over it or keep their thumb in the dike. But this tsunami of debt is going to cause problems. And remember, the ultimate extinguisher of debt, I'm going to throw a prop towards gold right now. The ultimate extinguisher of debt, the only sound money, is gold. And we've talked about, you've seen the videos on that for years here. We've talked about everything from what Karl Marx says about it to the Austrian school of von Mises, all of history, 10,000 years of human history. And when this, if this wealth starts to flow towards secure safe havens, because of the shaking that's taking place right now, because of this potential reset, this paradigm shift, when you start seeing interstates of wealth open up and flow at highway speeds into those areas of gold, silver, and crypto to protect themselves or secure themselves, the price action, the price discovery that we're going to see take place in just those three areas will be staggering. It's going to be like you're sitting in the seat of an F-16 and you go from 0 to Mach 2. You're going to get thrown in the back of your seat. You might pass out. You might get nauseous. You might throw up. It's going to be velocity, hyperspeed. I don't know when. I can't give you a date. I know someone's thinking that. I know someone out there in the channel, of all of you, whatever, 53 viewers that are watching right now, someone's wondering, when? When is that going to happen? I don't know. I might be dead. Who knows? Now, this is global real estate. This is all of the world's. Mrs. Maltby just hit me. I've been assaulted. I have been assaulted. You don't like when I talk like that. I know. I'm sorry. I'll be alive. Don't worry. I'm healthy. Global real estate. All of the world's real estate is estimated to be worth $280.6 trillion in total. You wonder how much of that is sold to foreign interests and whatnot. There's a lot of theories there, but $280.6 trillion. How do you put a price on the planet? That kind of bothers me. It reminds me of the Indians, the Native Americans. One of them even said, how can you own the land? The white man cannot own the land. And I agree with them. How can you own the earth? How can you put a price tag on the planet like that? The whole world, all of the global real estate's worth. I mean, are they including the Sahara in that? The Gobi Desert? Are they talking about the Himalayas? Everything? Mount Kilimanjaro? The Alps? The island of Crete? Is every single piece of dirt and rock on the planet monetized to the point where they have a global real estate value and they came up with $280.6 trillion? I'm sorry, but I would put a price tag on the planet. Maybe since it's it's the only habitable place that we've found in the universe. Why don't we just call it priceless? We could put that there. But again, they value all the global real estate at $280.6 trillion. We'll let them, for the sake of what we're discussing here, we'll just include it. 22% of the world's total residential asset value is in North America, despite the fact that only 6% of the population lives there. Europe contains 22% of residential assets by value, but only houses 10% of the population. Residential represents $220 trillion. Commercial, $33 trillion, about 11.9%, with 78.5% being residential. Agricultural lands, where all the food comes from, they value at 9.7%, $27 trillion. And this is, I would imagine, diminishing, going down, because as they develop and expand residential and commercial, as the human population grows and encroaches on rural areas, I would assume that agricultural lands are being diminished and exhausted. But let's move on. We're talking about market cap here. Let's go to global wealth. According to Credit Suisse, all global wealth tallies. This is where the market cap really gets big now. All global wealth, according to Credit Suisse, tallies at around $360.6 trillion. $360 trillion. 31.8% here in North America, the wealth leaders. 29.4% in the United States, with Canada at 2.4%. Canada, you're lagging a little bit. United States median wealth per adult, $66,000. Canada median wealth per adult, $107,000. A little bit wealthier up there in Canada. Europe, 25.2%. Here's the European wealth leaders. Of course, Germany. I mean, Germany carries Europe, as we all know. 4.1%. You got the UK, United Kingdom at 4%, France 3.8%, Italy 3.1%, 2.2% there in Spain. Not seeing Poland on the list, ma'am. Not seeing your little Poland on there.
What is this list?
This is European wealth leaders.
Oh, we have all of our wealth in our culture and our intelligence. Sometimes wealth is more than, gold or numbers.
Well said. Well said. Then you've got the Asian Pacific wealth leaders. The Asia Pacific, 39.2% of global wealth, with 17% in China, 6.9% Japan. You've got India and Australia, Korea. Australia, you guys are sitting at 2%. Wealth, $63.8 trillion in just China. Number of millionaires, 4,447, and that's in U.S. dollars. Now again, each square represents 100 billion. You've seen a lot of numbers scroll by. We looked at global wealth, the amount of money out there. Remember that market cap we saw in silver. What was it? Test question. It was only minutes ago we looked at it. What, like 44 billion? A tiny little half of one of these little squares. So again, I'll ask you what the potential is there for if there is a move into silver and gold and crypto. A lot of potential there. Now look at the derivatives. Here's the derivatives markets. Gross market value for just up here, the darker color, 11.6 trillion. The notional value is 558.5 trillion. What's a derivative? A derivative is a contract between two or more parties that derives its value from the performance of an underlying asset, index, or entity. Again, 558.5 trillion. There's two ways to measure. Derivatives are typically measured in two different ways: gross market value or notional value. Example, a call option derivative representing 100 shares of ABC stock with a strike price of $50 may trade in the market for $1 per contract. Market value, 100 shares times $1 per contract equals $100. Notional value, 100 shares times a $50 strike price is $5,000. Now, the examples of derivatives, we've heard of these all the time. We've talked about these. We've got futures contracts, forward contracts, options, warrants, and swaps. A lot of this takes place, as you know, even the metals markets are affected by this. Collateralized debt obligations. You guys remember 2007 and 8, all the discussions there with the mortgage-backed security crisis and the CDOs. All that damaged the implosion of the global marketplace. Collateralized debt obligations and credit default swaps are two derivative types that are now infamous for their roles in the 2008 financial crisis. Look at the amount of wealth here. The notional value, here you go, 1 quadrillion. 1 quadrillion. And we're going to scroll through it. What is the range on the low and high end estimates? Why is the range on the low and high end estimates so large? The low end estimate for the notional value of derivatives comes from the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, and covers only over-the-counter OTC products, i.e. commodities futures, interest rate swaps, options, etc., that are easily measured and quantified. The high-end number is unofficial but is cited by multiple sources and includes non-OTC derivatives. A non-OTC derivative may be a bespoke product used to hedge a specific risk that does not meet standardized clearing requirements. Now, you've seen this gigantic amount of book money here, this paper, all of this, $1 quadrillion. And here we go. The $100 billion square. This is that little tiny square here blown up for you. Here are just a few things that can fit inside that tiny square. Remember all these squares up here represent 100 billion? Here's what can fit in them. The operating budget of Chicago, 11 billion. Average value of an NBA team, 2 billion. The operating budget of the World Health Organization, 5 billion. The amount raised by governments and organizations to develop a COVID-19 vaccine, 8 billion. The Tokyo 2020 Olympics budget, 12 billion. The value of land owned by all of the McDonald's fast food restaurants in the entire country, globally, I guess, 6 billion. The value of the British royal family's crown jewels collection, 4 billion. They should give that back to the people. Ireland's sovereign wealth fund, 12 billion. Esports revenue, 1 billion. Netflix revenue for 2019, 20 billion. The cost of an aircraft carrier, 13 billion. And all of the silver that exists above ground is less than half of this square right here. Just that. So you tell me if you think there's potential for more wealth, more paper to flow into those three areas that we opened the video discussing: gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. I believe there is, and I believe it will happen. I believe it will occur. Billions, trillions, or quadrillions. Now here's the full list, which sums up all of the world's money and markets from the smallest to the biggest, along with sources used. Now, isn't it interesting that silver, the little beaten down silver that we talk about so much and so many of you stack, sits here as the smallest one. It's the littlest market cap. $44 billion. Cryptocurrencies, next one, $244 billion. Nothing. And you got military spend. Let's go to gold. 10,000 billion. Again, 10.8 trillion right here. So you've got gold, crypto, and silver right up here in these small little areas. Not a whole lot. And then you come down here and you look at the 1 quadrillion for the derivatives. You look at the 558,000 billions for derivatives notional value. Global wealth, 360,000 billions. Global real estate, global debt, broad money supply, the narrow money supply, all that wealth that we discussed. And then you look at these very small amounts of crypto and silver and gold. And I hope, if anything, the point of this was, the only reason I wanted to present this was to kind of paint a picture, to create a visual for those of you in the audience, those of you that are part of this channel, of what's out there, the potential of wealth to move and shift, because it can and it surely will with what's taking place. What triggers it is a good question. How much it will be systemic, how much herd mentality will take place, if it's going to be a sudden rush for the fire exits or a slow trickle, if people are just going to slowly get up and leave the theater because it's not a good movie at the time. Or is someone going to jump up and yell fire and the exits are crammed and it's chaos and it's every man, woman, and child for themselves? Or is it going to be like the sinking of the Titanic, or it's going to take many down with it? I think that's a more likely scenario.
You could say on this channel we're the ones playing the violins.
Yeah, we're playing the violins
on the deck there.
And stacking. We have lifeboats made of these three areas that we're discussing. So I hope, again, this shows you the potential, paints a picture of market caps, and why, when you look at the market caps for gold and silver and crypto, take that into consideration. You know, a lot of times, again, I'll go back to some of the discussions I have with friends that they're not as well versed in this. It's just not as a big an interest. It's not as much of a hobby or an obsession for them as it is perhaps with myself and with some of you. And so when they look at these things, they don't consider or think about or discuss market caps. So some of my friends that are more skeptical or more critical of, and I'll just use crypto because it seems to be one of the ones they're more critical of. I don't think they realize the effect that the market cap's shifting just in small amounts even. Just 1 or 2% of some of those other sectors flowing into silver, gold, or cryptocurrency. What that could do to shift those prices. Think of that for a moment. I mean, if you doubled the market cap of Bitcoin tomorrow, you would only have a price of, and I'm just using it as an example because we've seen it run lately and it's at 16,000. If you just made the market cap from 300 billion to 600 billion, again, not a lot of those squares, just 6 of those small squares, you'd have a price of 32,000 for Bitcoin. If the market cap of Ethereum just reached 100 billion, so one of those squares, you would be looking at around $1,000 or so, or 940 and change for Ethereum. A market cap for XRP, one of the top 3 coins. If it was doubled from 12 billion it is now to 24, you'd be sitting around 50 something cents, 60 something cents. And that's just 24 billion. You start getting the market caps of some of these bigger coins if wealth starts flowing into them, like what we're looking at over here. Let's go back down to all the currencies floating around out there. Where were we at? There's the stock market, just the stock markets even. I've talked about that. The Dow it sits around 27 trillion, 28 trillion today, 29 trillion or whatever. You take a couple trillion out of the stock market, just 1 or 2 trillion. You take a trillion or so out of the money supply. You take another couple of trillion out of the international money supplies of other currencies, and you dump that money, because again, this is an international market, into these, and into silver, and into gold, and you start seeing a significant price change. Let's just go back to silver. Let's talk about silver for 1 second. Let's pretend the market cap of all silver doubled. You're still not 100 billion. And you'd have silver sitting at in the almost $40 range. You double it again. You double silver again. Let's say $80 silver. It's absolutely possible. And you're still looking at a very small amount of market cap. You start getting the market cap of silver up into $1 trillion, which is potential. It's possible. You get enough wealth moving over there, enough currency flowing into it, enough markets collapsing. Because again, the wealth doesn't disappear; it just moves, just changes hands. You get some of those squares. Let's just talk about squares, not even dollar amounts. You start moving some of these big squares down here from the stock markets. You start moving some from the Fortune 500 here, and you start moving these squares up into gold and silver. Look at the money supply. You just take 10% of these squares here, and you move them up here into gold and silver, and you're talking about absolutely historic price movements, triple-digit price movements. That's it. It's simple. That's the point of today's video. Market cap and why gold and silver and crypto could potentially explode. That's what I wanted to talk about. It's been on my mind lately. It's been something I've discussed with friends outside of this channel and in conversations. And I think it's interesting. I think it's something that to consider when it comes to what we think could potentially. Again, it's all assumptions and predictions. Again, like I opened the video with, we don't have 2020 vision looking forward, but we have a pretty good idea of what could happen. I mean, this stuff's pretty clear. We can see this. We know what this is. We can see the market cap of all these different areas. Now all we have to do is think to ourselves, well, what happens if? What if you start throwing some of these squares into cryptocurrency here, into silver here, and into gold? It could be significant, and it could be important. What's that? Oh, yes. We're going to go to the comments here in a moment. We'll take some questions. Hopefully you guys are still viewing. For some reason, it shows there's not many viewers left. But
got 88 here.
Oh, I guess the streaming software is lagging or something. Carlos Danger, we'll go to some questions here in a moment. One big shout out again while you're all in here. When this video is over, don't forget to go check out Mrs. Maltby's channel, our backup channel. Pretty awesome. She's been doing some work on there, putting some old footage up and videos and things, and you'll get to see her wielding some of her historic firearms and having some fun out in the mountains. So if you want to go check out just another view of our lives and some of our adventures, go check out Mrs. Maltby's backup channel at the conclusion.
We have someone in the comment saying that we all just need to get a better job. He was saying...
Who, me?
I think he was just addressing all of us in the chat.
You all just need to get a better job.
A very boomer thing to say.
What does he recommend we do? Little Sunrise Steve? Sunrise Steve says he's got a little sunrises, or somebody could be a sunset. I like my job. I got an all right job. You know, I don't mind being a peasant, and I think I'm gonna do okay. All right there, Steve. All right.
Thank you, Bill Spencer.
Bill Spencer, always throwing down with the Canadian money. Well, you kind of owe me that, Bill, because I saw on here that Canadians make more and have more. So you need to Gibbs. Kick down. You gotta send some money to the basement, America. I appreciate it, my friend. I'm all joking aside. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel that way. It's very appreciated. Let's go to some questions here.
Junius.
There's a couple of questions I need to address here.
DW pointed out it's Ann Cat that did the editing.
Of course, Ann Cat's, yeah, she did. She does a lot of the work. You help her. Physics Hypernova says that Junius, do you think states will refuse Biden's tyranny if he tries another lockdown? I do believe there will be resistance, especially with some of the more conservative governors that have been elected nationally and some of the state legislators that are absolutely not going to toe his line.
What the heck did Rolf write? I've never seen that before.
I can't see it.
Rolf Steiner's message deleted by the Google moderator team.
Whoa. Rolf.
Whoa, Rolf.
Rolf, your message was deleted by the Google moderator team. What did he write? I've
never seen that before either.
This is YouTube history. This is censorship at all. I've never even seen that.
I've never seen that before because that wasn't me.
They didn't even give us the opportunity.
I didn't even get to see it.
Everyone pause. Silent. This is an emergency broadcast. All stop. Emergency traffic only. Don't even laugh.
And thank you, disgruntled citizen.
Stop. This is an emergency. I need Rolf to write down exactly what he wrote in some form of a code. You're going to have to use digits and symbols. Rolf, email me that comment. Whatever you just wrote, Rolf, if you can hear me. Did they delete you? Rolf, where are you? I wrote, sometimes there are no better jobs. There's no way that's what you wrote. I don't understand. Rolf, do you realize what just happened? You literally broke internet history, my friend. I've, as a moderator, as a channel broadcaster, looking at the comments, I have never in my life seen a comment deleted by an entity that's not even in the channel. It says message deleted. I got a screenshot. Can you screenshot that?
Yeah.
Message deleted by the Google moderator team. Okay, I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to talk to the Google moderator.
I would like to also thank Disgruntled Citizen and Nate for
Disgruntled Citizen, sorry, and Nate. I apologize for not being able to recognize your donation sooner. I appreciate the super chat, but we just had quite a significant event occur here that I've never seen occur before on the channel. I've never even heard of this happening in YouTube. I don't know what a Google moderator is, but I want to talk to them. I want to have a couple of words because they're obviously...
No, Rolf, I did not delete your words.
Rolf, you have to see the screenshot of what was said. On our end, this is exactly what it reads, and I'll read it to you again. In a faint, quiet font that's only visible on our end. It has your name and your image. And it says Rolf Steiner. And then it says, message deleted by the Google moderator team, and it's in italics, and it's in gray. Mrs. Maltby's going to screenshot it. We'll share it in another video sometime. We'll talk about this. I'm going to have to look it up and research what took place. I don't know what you wrote. If you dropped some serious truth bombs or what, but whatever you wrote, the little...
He's right. He said it's his white privilege.
It's unbelievable. I mean, this is incredible. The world can no longer even communicate without...
That was the guy in the FBI van outside.
I told you. There's little hidden people. There's little people that peruse this channel, and they sit there and they watch our broadcasts to make sure we're not talking about wrong think or saying things inappropriate. They don't want this information out. This brings up the whole point. This is why we have a backup channel. This is why Mrs. Maltby has her backup.
Yes.
In case this channel gets erased.
By the way, my channel is accessed in the description through a link, or you can click on my name in comments.
Unbelievable. Yeah, our channel's definitely being watched.
Of all the things that Rolf says.
Message deleted by the Google moderator team. Wow. I have never heard of that before. All right, Rolf, I don't know what you wrote, but man, you ticked off somebody. They're after you now, buddy. They're after you now. Everyone, get their Arkansas rabbits. Get their Arkansas kangaroos. They're coming. These are strange times. Strange times indeed. Makes me smile. Makes me laugh. Remember, you don't have to win. You just don't let them win. All right. Well, on that note, on that wonderful conclusion, how timely is it, though? I mean, really, we're sitting here talking about market cap, their situation, what they're doing to the global economy, and how to best prepare for it. And they're in the chat, hiding out. It's like we're bugged. You guys realize we're bugged. All of you. Every single one of you that watches these videos, likes these videos, subscribes to these videos. I encourage you to do so. Don't be afraid. We shouldn't be. We shouldn't be afraid of these people. Those of you writing in the comments, it's incredible. They come in here, and because of past content, I'm sure, because of past videos we've done, they come in here and they tend to police our speech.
And that's why we keep pushing my backup channel, not to annoy you.
And I just want to give a shout out real quick, because we have an old friend in the chat, Liberty Warrior. He's actually a really good friend of this channel, and I have not seen him in a long time. He's a musician, an artist, an Australian. I've seen some of your videos, Liberty Warrior. Very talented. Good to see you. Hello. Greetings, Australian friend. Liberty Warrior. In the chat. This was a crazy year. It was. It was absolutely crazy. Wow. All right. Well, none of you can hold a candle to that, I guess. Rolf's the one. They got their eye on him. And is that really all he wrote? Was something about there are no better jobs? I find that hard to believe.
Maybe they thought he was saying something negative about their little crony Steve Jobs.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, good to see you, Liberty Warrior. Glad you made it to alive. Glad you're in the chat. Glad you're on the other side of the planet, down under. Believe me, I don't believe in the conspiracy theories that Australians don't exist. I know you're there. I know you exist. I know Australia's really a place. I heard about that this year. Someone was telling me there's actually people that don't believe Australia exists, and they think that all the people there are kind of like they're acting. That's a real theory.
Serious?
Yeah, it's an actual conspiracy theory somewhere. I think conspiracy theories like that are kind of invented to make the legitimate ones seem illegitimate. They kind of lump it into the same category. It discounts all conspiracy theories. They go, hey, look, there's people that don't believe Australia exists, so you're a bunch of idiots. But I believe Australia exists.
That's so funny.
I'd like to go there sometime, actually.
Somebody said I remind them of Jessie from Toy Story.
She is like Jessie from Toy Story, just sometimes probably a little meaner. A little more real. A little more experienced.
It must be the hat.
All right. Well, friends, thanks for tuning in. I'm glad you were here, and we got to share this evening. So we're going to call it tonight. We're going to call it. This was good. This was fun. I hope it was kind of an eye-opener. If anything, it just gave you an idea, something else to think about, something to bounce around in the back of your head on the potential for gold, silver, and crypto. And hey, Liberty Warrior, word to you, since you're in Australia and you know my passion for gold, panning, sluicing, get out there with a metal detector, a sluice box, and a pan, and start hitting the outback, my friend. If you guys, I'm telling you, if you guys in Australia don't have a MineLab 5000 or MineLab 3000, whatever it is, good metal detectors, you need to get out and start walking around Australia, because your entire continent is littered with nuggets of gold an inch or a foot below the surface all over the place. I've watched video after video of guys walking around Australia pulling beautiful large nuggets from what one of them, the big one's called what, the Good Day Nugget, the Happy Day Nugget, or the Good Day. There's a famous nugget that was pulled out of the ground there years and years ago. But again, I've watched it enough to know there's quite a bit of gold to be found right there on the surface of the Australian continent. Just got to walk around with a little metal detector and wait till it rings and dig it up, take it home. There you go. But appreciate it, all of you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Don't forget to hit the like button and share it. Sharing the videos helps defy the YouTube algorithms.
Google moderators.
Yeah, the Google moderator. Let's show that Google moderator who's boss. Hit the thumbs up, slap a comment down below, and keep this channel alive.
And subscribe to the backup.
Go check out Mrs. Maltby's channel. And I don't know if you've seen Mrs. Maltby's channel, but go check it out. And if you do, leave a comment so we know you were there. All right. Liberty Warrior says, I get my nuggets from the Perth Mint. Well, go get some of your own, my friend. Go dig some up. If you're in the Welcome Stranger Nugget, Rolf says. That's a famous nugget. Well, you guys in Australia, get out there and find some nuggets. If you don't want them, I'll take them. If they're useless to you, just dig them up, put them in a bottle, and I'll rattle them around. All right. Thanks again. Good night, all of you, and have a good rest of your evening, your day, wherever you are. God bless you all. Take care.